What does this day bring, Ata?
Sun all day.
Actually, my app says it's going to rain at noon.
Sun.
Rain!
Sun!
Rain!
Listen, I am going to buy my own boat. Who is with him? Give me my fish.
Hey, you, down here in the bucket.
Me?
Do you see another old man looking at me?
Stop talking and go back to being a fish.
Come and dead me.
I will.
If I jump out of this bucket, I will slap you with my fin. Slap, slap, slap. You have to stroke it, then poke it.
You want to join?
Yes.
Do I get a wish?
No,
You just talk.
I'm sorry. Is that not like cool enough for you?
He would like to apply for a loan.
We can only consider a 3-year payback plan.
You think I will die in 3 years?
No.
Oh, she paused.
Papa.
That fish is very rare. How much?
Priceless.
I need a message first.
The message is, eat me.
We are screwed. Trust me, gambling is like swimming. It's in my DNA.
Where is Kofi?
I miss his Jesus fish.
One thing about being Allure is we always value the ones we love.
Wow. So, one trip to Accra, and the man has become a poet.
Shut up.
From an Oscar winner's take on the streaming era to why South Africans are still flocking the cinemas today, and a veteran actor setting the record straight on the African cinema history. Welcome to the Film Mandate, where we are covering the entire spectrum of the film world today. And in today's first story, Brendan Fraser, an Academy Award winner of the film The Whale, has stated that due to the streaming era, a lot of actors are being put on their toes to perform better and even make better choices with regards to the film they do because of the power of skipping the button on the remote. And also in my second story, regardless of how the cinema audiences are declining, particularly from the streaming services and also the whole effect of the pandemic on cinema, it looks like South Africa audiences are not relenting at all. And last but not the least, Kofi Adjorlolo, Ghana's veteran actor, one of Ghana's veteran actors and one of the best in the industry, has set the record straight that a lot of Ghanaian films, Ghanaian actors were already popular prior to Nollywood, teaming up with them. And this he did say on the Real Talk podcast. So do check it out. So we are talking about all these stories and more right here on the Film Mandates. My name is Papa Otu. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions, both from the African front and the international scene. So we'll be delving into our very first story, but just to notify you on what you just watched. You just watched the trailer of The Fisherman, which will be showing in the Silverbird cinemas barely 11 days from now. So it's just to promote a production that I was privileged to also work on. And I'm so excited about the movie. It is very funny and very, Ghanaian in nature, directed by Zoe Martinson. So on the 19th of September, just this month, it will be premiering in both cinemas, whether the, Accra Mall or the West Hills Mall. When you go there, it will be showcasing. So do well to make sure you attend to support this Ghanaian film. Yeah, thank you so much. So we're delving into our very first story. And in our very first story, the Academy Award winner of The Whale was interviewed on his promotion of the film that he's starring in currently, called The Rental Family. And he did state something that is very crucial today. With the advent of streaming, a lot of actors now have several options and advantages to star in films, whether those that are going to be shown on the screen and those that are going to be shown on the streaming services. Even those that are shown on screen, after they are run in the cinemas, it ends up back on the streaming platform. And what a lot of people have realized was that because of the several options that are available to audiences, they could easily flip the button to watch the next film. If the performances are not up to par or not engaging for audiences to be glued to that particular production. And this, I think, is very, very interesting and very, very important that he has raised, because in the earlier eras of some of these streaming services, there were a lot of flock of films that weren't that good, even though, yes, entertaining to a level. But then now that we have several of the major studios also having their own streaming services with other third-party, solo streaming services available, it has created a lot of, competition for actors and producers or filmmakers in general to make the best choices in terms of production to be able to retain audiences, not just for themselves as filmmakers, but for the streaming services, because without they having the necessary traction of audiences watching them, the likelihood for the streaming services not to sort of renew their be it series or not even greenlight their next production is very high. So this, he has stated in a Variety article, which I would like to read a particular paragraph which he did state. So in this, he said that Brendan Fraser says streaming forces actors to up your game and choose films more carefully because viewers can just hit skip. I welcome that challenge. And this is him seated with the director of Rental Family. And this is Hikari, and this is what he had to say. Audiences are more focused and have the option to skip to the next if they wish. He said, I welcome that as a challenge. It means you have to up your game and choose more carefully for be better. That's what he's saying. So Fraser said that Rental Family, which has its world premiere at TIFF on September 6th, was an easy choice because it was so different from any other projects out there. The actor plays Philip, a working actor in Japan who soon takes work as a professional surrogate to help people who are grieving. It was so far removed from anything that I've seen at all. He said of the project, it was to be shot in Japan, Tokyo, and other parts. The nature of the story being an unusual way to fulfill the needs that people have who are bereft of family. It seemed like a film without a villain per se, apart from apathy. And that speaks to us at this time. So this was a project that he was promoting, having premiered at TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival. And honestly, what he says is very true now, because for those who were, just picking films because it has a good paycheck, now the tides have turned. If your performances are not that good, soon enough, even the streaming service will not greenlight your projects going forward. And even if you star in a film that would premiere or will have its run in the cinemas prior to ending up on the streaming platform, if it is not the best of choices, you can be rest assured that soon enough, you're going to lose audiences, trooping in to watch your films. And that is the challenge a lot of filmmakers and actors are having at the moment. And so it is really a challenge now. And for him, having, done, The Whale, it looks like his choices of films are very selective. I'm sure you remember him from George of the Jungle and a whole host of other films that he did in time past. And now with this new advent of streaming, there are so many opportunities available to audiences. They could either choose to go to the cinemas to watch, or while seated, comfortably in their homes, they have the options of several streaming platforms available to them. And not just that, but whilst watching even one streaming platform, there's a myriad of content on that platform, which they can just easily flip from one movie to the other without any, thought. So I remember while starting this particular streaming, this podcast, an advice given to me was that your first 3 seconds is so important to hook your audience on. Well, this is just for podcasts or streaming. How much more for a film? So it means that if you are not putting in your best, the likelihood for you to lose audiences is very high. And I do agree with that because the options available are too many in this era. And it's not like you paying to go to the cinemas to sit down and watch. At least for that 2-hour period or 3-hour period that you are sitting in the cinema, because you've paid top dollar money or CDs, you would be forced to watch, and you don't have the advantage of flipping, but you do have the option to choose to leave the cinema if it's not good enough. So currently, that is the challenge a lot of filmmakers are facing. So whether you are in front of the camera or behind the camera, you are now forced to put up your very best foot forward, or you rethink your project before it is finally shot. Because once it is shot and canned and shown in the cinema and it flops, it will affect your next film. And even if it doesn't affect your next film, you may not even get opportunity to do a project again for the studio, or let alone maybe the streaming service. So it is quite a challenge that they are faced with currently. And if you check carefully what he chose to act in today, that is The Rental Family, it is quite a comic, movie, but it has depth of heart to it. And that's the kind of choices he's made. If you ever watch The Whale is a very emotional, moving project that he did that won him the best actor for the Academy for that year. So it is indeed a very interesting story he chose, because the story is that of an actor who has to act as a surrogate, family member to families that are grieving or families who have lost a member. And he has to pretend to be the person's dad or whichever role he's asked to play. And if you watch the trailer, through the period of that small piece that we watched, he ended up being attached to some of the families, even some of the families getting so attached to him as if he's related to them. So it speaks of the kind of choices he's making today to ensure that whoever is watching his film on the streaming services will not flip the next button, which every actor, I can tell you for a fact now, is scared of, because you would want to retain as many audiences who are watching your film to help you in your next project going forward. So The Rental Family is indeed a very interesting movie shot in Japan. And I think if you watch the trailer, you can attest to how unique of a story that film is. And personally, I think it is necessary for them to be upping their game, because you can't in this era afford to just churn out any production at all. Whatever production you're churning out must be on par with good production value and quality story to hook people on, because aside the streaming services, there is also the possibilities of people leaving the streaming services to watch a skit on their phone, which literally are shorter and sometimes even more engaging than the films we watch, because with a film, you have highs and lows, and it may take time to build up to a twist or a plot point or some action set pieces. So I do agree that whatever they are putting out there now must be of top quality. Otherwise, viewers are likely to tune off very easily. So let me know. This is what is the reality on the ground now for actors and filmmakers. What do you think of what Brendan Fraser has said with regards to actors upping their game? Otherwise, the audiences are likely to click on the next button and move on from their production to another. Whatever your thoughts may be, can you leave it in the chat section below, and then I'll read it out. So yeah. Moving on to my second story, one of the interesting things we have now is the fact that after the pandemic, the cinema attendance has never been the same. And it has been that bad to the extent that it looks like now, more than ever, there's been there's still continuous decline of cinema attendance, not just in Africa but the world over. Everywhere you check, you realize that a lot of people, some section of the cinema going audience, have never returned to the cinema as of now, and others have chosen not to even get back on the bandwagon due to several reasons. However, in Africa, to be specific, South Africa, it looks like they are not relenting on the issue of giving up on the cinema going culture, regardless of how economical a challenge that may be or any other reason. Well, in an article that has been published, which highlights a percentage of those who are still going to the cinema, it says that South African consumers still captivated by the allure of the big screen. And this is a business report written by Ashley Lechman. I'd like to just read a portion that states this. It says that a recent study by Brand Map reveals that movies rank as the third most popular pastime for South Africans with a monthly income of 10,000 Rand or more, trailing only music and travel. Amid ongoing conversations about the potential decline of cinema, this data uncovers a resilient enthusiasm for the communal experience of watching films on the big screen. Brandon de Kock, a commentator on consumer behaviors, points out, "We are bombarded with doom and gloom portending the death of cinema. But don't be surprised when you arrive at the cinema on a Friday night and find that it is buzzing with life." The numbers substantiate his sentiments. 67% of adults in South Africa's consumer class still frequent cinemas, with an impressive 20% categorized as movie fans who attend screenings 6 or more times a year. Furthermore, 82% of this demographic participates in loyalty programs, underscoring a commitment to the experience. Notably, 12% are members of the Stan Kenneco Club, while 5% enjoy the benefits of new metro scene and so forth. So yeah, so as it stands now, it looks like South Africa cinema going audience are still very much into the communal experience. And just as I've been saying, in as much as there's been, the advent of streaming services has come to help filmmakers in general, it still has, impacted one way or the other quite negatively on the cinema going audience, because what it means is that now you have the option to stay at home or be wherever and watch films on your phones or whatever platform or medium or device. And that has indeed impacted the cinema industry. I mean, to an extent, it has really affected the cinema going industry, because with just, perhaps the price of a ticket, you could subscribe to, a streaming service for a month, and you have so many movies available to you that you can watch from morning till evening without, a stop. As to whether that would be the kind of movie you really want to watch, that is also left to be debated. But regardless, the streaming services have provided an avenue for people to have, quote unquote, a relatively cheaper and affordable option to the cinema going experience. However, one thing you can never take away from the cinema going experience is the fact that it is a communal experience, just as you have in sports and going to, the night out or whichever way. There is a communal experience you can never take away from attending the cinemas. And that is what the South African audience are participating in, unrelentlessly, which is a good thing for cinema, particularly in that region of Africa. And it is my hope that it will be quite spread throughout Africa. And we need that, because for the industry we find ourselves in, one of the main veins where filmmakers make their monies back is through the cinemas, and you cannot rule that out. The streaming services will give some amount of money, yes, to the movies they curate, or buy the licenses to be on their platform. But beyond that, it may not be enough to sometimes even recoup the money, let alone make enough profit to be able to make your next movie if you're a filmmaker or producer. So that is also quite a challenge for filmmakers. However, the cinemas, if well organized and whatever movie is being done is promoted well, it brings a lot of people back to the cinemas to watch the film. And it looks like without particular titles, it makes it difficult for people to return to the cinema. However, with a combination of offers and cinematic titles, a lot of people in South Africa are still attending cinemas, and that is great news, because recently a number of cinemas are closing down because of poor attendance. And if you ever understand the business of theater or cinema, where they make most of their money is not even the ticket sales, because we are looking at they splitting the cost of the profit, not just with the filmmakers, but the studio that are promoting the films themselves. So it means that if they are even taking the profit and it's split into 3 parts, they are only entitled to 1/3. And most often, I'm sure there are ways they go about it. That will be either recouping the profit after the production cost, or one way or the other, there's a calculation that makes it possible. But most of those monies are never enough to keep the cinemas or multiplexes afloat. So one of the ways they keep themselves afloat is the confectionaries they sell, from the popcorns and the drinks and the candies. Those are the things that really keep them afloat. And without people going to the cinemas, it will be next to impossible for them to sustain that business they have. And so that is quite a challenge that they are faced with about 60% of the South African demographics of the cinema going audience still very prevalent in the cinema going experience. It does speak well of a very buoyant South African film industry or cinema industry. And that is a good thing to hear, that at least in a part of Africa, cinema is crucial to their industry, and that is a good thing to hear. It is something that is also predicated on whether audiences like the cinema experience more than just watching films on their phones through the streaming platforms. And one of the things I discovered quite recently was the fact that the Gen Alphas, those who were born particularly from the year 2013 till now, they prefer the cinema going experience compared to the Gen Alphas and the millennials and the baby boomers and others. In terms of percentage wise, they rank around the 60s, whereas the others are, from around 47 to around 30 something. But the Gen Alphas are really so engrossed in going to the cinemas compared to the other generations. And that speaks to a decline to how far a lot of cinema going audiences have, due to so many reasons aside the pandemic, have stepped back from going to the cinemas. And that is indeed a challenge. But thankfully, South Africa is holding the fort for positioning themselves as a vital community hub for the cinema going audiences. And whether the cinema business will ever recover fully from the pandemic, that is left to be seen. But as it stands now, it looks like South Africa is, you can tell the health of an industry based on the market the market being very profitable. And it looks like the cinema going audience is thriving well, regardless of the fact that other cinema, multiplexes are closing down. So it is a good thing, and I'm hoping it's something that would, grow in all parts of Africa, in all other industries, even from Ghana and so forth. But all is also dependent on the film titles that are available. And this also means that whatever films are being produced have to be of top-notch quality and must also have the leverage of a popcorn vibe to reel people in. That is why a lot of big, studios would invest lots of money into like their superhero films or war films, and promote it on a massive scale just to reel in people. And you also have a lot of people who love thrillers or horror films. And so a lot of big studios would rather invest in those ones to draw people in. And that becomes quite a challenge for the indie films who have small budgets and may not have the leverage as the big studios to promote these films on a larger scale to bring them in. So hopefully this is a habit we are hoping it spreads through Africa, and with the hope that that would make an impact on the African market for it to thrive, the film industries to thrive. So let me know what you think. What can other markets learn from what South Africa is doing now, in terms of their cinema-going audiences? Whatever your thoughts may be, can you leave them in the comment section below? So moving on to my last story, one of Ghana's veteran actors, and for those who may not know, he started out as a musician, playing trumpet, and Kofi Adjorlolo has been on our screens for over 2-3 decades, if I'm not mistaken, and he's been very prominent in so many films, TV series, commercials, you can name it all. And he was recently interviewed on a podcast called the Real Talk, podcast. You can go and check and subscribe to their podcast on YouTube. Kindly do so. He was interviewed, and one of the statements he made was that Nollywood, it's wrong to claim Nollywood made Ghanaian actors famous. And I would like to read a little bit of what he said, and then I'll give my thoughts on that. So just a quick read. So he says that it's wrong to claim Nollywood made Ghanaian actors famous. Kofi Adjorlolo, and that's him in the picture. Veteran actor Kofi Adjorlolo has argued that Ghana's movie industry was already thriving and producing top talents before Nigerian filmmakers began collaborating with them. He made his statements while emphasizing that Nollywood cannot be credited for popularizing Ghanaian filmmakers. Speaking on the Real Talk podcast, he explained that many of Ghana's top talents had already made breakthroughs through local productions before Nigerian producers took notice. Through the Ghana movie industry, though the Ghana movie industry may be having its own problems, it does not mean that Nigerians made us. Ghana films made Ghanaian actors. Ghana movie industry and the movies produced made us popular before the Nigerian producers noticed and called us, he said. Ghana has produced some of the Africa's biggest screen icons such as Majid Michel, Van Vika, Jackie Appiah, John Dumelo, Juliet Ibrahim, Nadia Buhari, and Yvonne Nelson. Though he acknowledged the business acumen and drive that have helped Nollywood flourish, Kofi Adjorlolo maintained that Ghanaians should not overlook their own contributions to the African movie scene. He added that although Ghanaian film industry may not be as visible as it once was, but work is still ongoing. Ghana movie is not down. Actors are acting daily. Producers are producing daily. Work is ongoing daily. Rather, it is the promotion and marketing that is lacking, and we've got to fix that area, he noted. Yeah, so that is a good observation he has really made. And Kofi Adjorlolo has vast experience in this industry. And before I even give my thoughts, listen, he knows the industry better, and he's been in it for that long. And I must concur or agree to what he's saying. Prior to Nollywood coming in to collaborate with some of the names he mentioned there, let's say from the Jackie Appiah to the Majid Michel, a lot of these people started from TV. Like you have Jackie Appiah, Majid Michel in particular, who started from the Things We Do for Love. And at a time, Things We Do for Love became so big to the extent that they were pop cultural icons in that era. From not just them, but you had other people who may not have necessarily translated onto the silver screen from the TV, screens, but they were very prominent in their own right in regards to the project they did, Things We Do for Love, and others went on to do other TV shows and all that. But prior to, even around the same era, we also had, I think, Venus Films, Miracle Films, all doing productions with them. And some of them had their names established before the collaboration era started around the early, the mid 2000s to the early 2010s, where there was a lot of collaborations between Ghanaian production houses and Nigerian production houses. So a number of these actors, maybe even of that era, most of them were established. So that cannot be taken away from them. However, just as he stated, the challenge with our industry has always been with how well we, aside, the film, let's not take away from the fact that a poor production value of a film would lead to poor viewership. So that is there. But beyond that, how well we promote our films has always been lacking, because the leverage we have to push the production out there is quite limited, maybe particularly in that era. But now, all the platforms are available, from the YouTubes to multiple TV stations that exist in Ghana, and possibly also even beyond the shores of Ghana. But one of the things I've realized that a lot of African films, not excluding Ghana, but a lot of African countries promote their films whenever it's done through a lot of film festivals. And fortunately for us, we have a collective few who does, that do same. So you have The Fisherman, which will be screening. You have the burial of the funeral of Kwade. You have a lot of films who, after they are shot, they go on a film festival run first, giving the opportunity for the world to see what we have before showing in the cinemas. And a lot of filmmakers are not doing that. Maybe they don't feel their film is up to the production value to be showcased in front of the world through the film festival run. Maybe that's the case, or maybe they don't care about it. So that is also okay. But one of the things we should know is that if you don't even have the money to promote it on a larger scale as it should be, the film festival circuit is one of the ways you can do it to receive the necessary attention to it. That is not to say you won't spend money on that aspect. You will definitely spend money, but it will lessen maybe the massive burden of trying to do everything yourself. Because if your film festival run is very successful, the likelihood for the film to be picked up is high. And that will give the necessary attention to even the actors and the filmmakers behind the production. But beyond that, one of the things that we cannot take away from the fact that Nollywood did for some of our actors was that it gave them enough mileage than we could have done with ourselves. Because there was a point in time in Ghana where, just as Mr. Adjorlolo has said, we did hit some kind of a wall where there wasn't enough money to push into promotions. We are barely scraping by whilst even doing the production at the time you were shooting it, compared to even having enough money to do promotion. So it was a challenge. But with the wider and bigger markets of Nigeria, you realize that when there was a lot of collaboration, you had Nigerian films promoting their films here, whereas Ghanaian films also were promoting theirs there. As to the percentage-wise, I cannot speak to that fact because there's no data to support it. But it did give some form of more exposure to the Nigerian market, and I would say to a larger market beyond the two. And a lot of filmmakers were also very strategic, where one example is Shirley Frimpong Manso. When she's doing her production, she became very strategic in selecting actors from different countries whose industries were thriving, so that at the time when the movie is done, at least it will have the opportunity to screen in these markets. And a lot of the filmmakers also were doing the same, where if they are shooting a production, they have one Nigerian actor, one Ghanaian, and one South African, or a mix of whichever way they would want to go about it. And that gave them the leverage, the opportunity to be exposed into different markets. So all these played a role in giving more attention to the actors. But truth be told, the 2000s, in the late 90s to the 2000s and a larger part of the 2010s, a lot of Ghanaian actors were made popular by our own industry here prior to the collaboration of Nigeria with Ghanaian production houses. But with their collaboration and the bigger markets Nigeria had, it did expose them even further. In as much as, yes, and just as he said, it was as a result of the Ghanaian actors being known, being popular, from the Jackos to the Lil Waynes to the Majid Michel to the Ajeti Anans and all those people. It gave them the opportunity to be noticed, and then Nollywood started collaborating with those they wanted to collaborate with. So the Ghanaian filmmakers or actors were popular as a result of the Black Star Films industry we have now. I mean, we are then and now. And then the collaboration helped boost their popularity even further into the Ghanaian market, to the extent that a lot of filmmakers are still working there. You have the Yvonne Nelsons and others still working there, but they made their name here from the Venus films and the Miracle films that they starred in. So it's right on point. Whatever Kofi Adjorlolo has said is actually exactly the case as it has been. So we have contributed our quota to the world one way or the other, but maybe because of the challenges we are still faced with in our industry, we tend to forget how far we have come. It's not the best. Yes, we could have done better, but unfortunately, the industry wasn't as viable or better as we find today. As we are today, we are still struggling. We can't take away from the fact that it is still not perfect. We are still working on it, but it is still getting better. But there's a lot more that ought to be done to move away from just who made who popular, but rather build a very viable, sustainable industry. And one of the things I would always say is that we need to have an integrated film market in Africa. One country's film industry is never big enough to sustain the business of the filmmakers in that country. I would even dare say not even Nigeria. It's not enough. If there's a complete integration of the total film market in Africa, you can imagine how wide and far we can go with our production. So that is something I wish and I hope we'll be taking a look at. The industry heads and even the country heads will be taking a look at, because the money we stand to make off the industry alone is massive. So yeah, what do you think about Kofi Adjorlolo's statement as to how as to the fact that we were already popular before Nollywood came in? Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comment section below. So all too soon, even though I've come to an end of the major stories, as usual, today being a Monday, I don't want to leave you go without knowing how well some of the movies performed in the box offices this past weekend. So we'll be taking a quick look as to a number of the box office returns of the films. Just the first top 10. We'll start with the North American box office. Just this past weekend, that is from the 5th September to the 7th. And the first movie is The Conjuring Last Rites, which made $83 million in its opening weekend. And that is amazing. That's a thriller. Opening weekend. That is amazing. Number 2, we have Hamilton, which is a 2025 re-release, and it has made $10 million. Number 3, which has dropped from number 1, Weapons, we have $5,370,000 and has made a domestic total of $143,044,692. And number 4, we have, which is still at number 4, staying at number 4, is Freakier Friday, which has made $3.8 million, and a total domestic box office of $87,813,679. And number 5, dropping from number 3, is Caught Stealing, which has made 3.2 this weekend, but the domestic total now is 12.8 million. And number 6, dropping from number 5, is The Roses, which has made 2.8 million and has a total of 12,284,311 $11 at the domestic box office. And number 7, dropping from number 6, is The Fantastic Four First Steps. It has made $2,750,000 and the total domestic is $270,131,321. And number 8, dropping from number 7, is The Bad Guys 2, and it has made $2,450,000 and a domestic total of $77,709,845. And number 9, which is the first time opening, is Light of the World, which is an animation. I think it's a Jesus animation, Jesus story. It says that it has made $2.4 million. And at number 10, for just the top 10, dropping from number 8 is Superman, which made $1 million, and the domestic total is $353,302,360. Yeah, so you can check the entire list, as I will leave the link in the description below. So let's move on to the worldwide total, since we've done that of the North American box office. Let's take a look at how the box office performed worldwide. So just talking about the top 10, at number 1 we have Nizar 2, which has made $1,902,337,333, and that is the Chinese animated film Nizar 2. And number 2 is Lilo and Stitch, which has made $1,035,327,993. And number 3, we have a Minecraft movie, which has made $957,849,195. And number 4, we have Jurassic World Rebirth, which has made $860,919,885. And number 5, you have How to Train Your Dragon, the live action adaptation from the animation starring Gerard Butler. It has made $632,068,100. And at number 6, the F1 movie starring Brad Pitt has made $619,513,826. And number 7, we have Superman with a total worldwide box office of $614,102,360. And number 8, we have Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, which has made $598,056,261. And number 9, we have The Fantastic Four: First Steps, which has made $511,526,150. And last but not the least, on the top 10 is Captain America: Brave New World, which has made a total of $415,101,577. So this sums up the total the total worldwide box office over this past weekend. So yeah, all too soon, I've come to an end of this episode. Thanks so much for joining me for this live stream broadcast of the Film Mandate. I'll be coming your way again with another exciting episode. Just keep in mind that the streaming time is from 11:45 p.m. GMT till into the next day, and I stream live from Sundays to Thursdays into the next day of Friday. So I'll come your way again tomorrow, and I'll see you soon. My name is Papa Otu, and this has been the Film Mandate.